Hi, I'm Mike Cardano, and here we are just 9 days before opening day, and many of you will be having your fantasy drafts this weekend and next. There are a number of high-profile guys that are hurt or have experienced setbacks this spring, and there's not always a consensus on how to deal with them. So let's take a look at a few of these guys, and here we are with Pat Mayo from RotoExperts. And Pat, first guy up is Hanley Ramirez, who's going to undergo surgery on his to repair torn ligaments in his right thumb. How long? 8 weeks or so, and how far does he drop?
Well, by average draft position over the last, basically the weekend since this injury was announced, he's dropped all the way down from a top 20 pick to around a borderline top 100 pick. Sometimes he's going inside the top 100, other times he's coming out of it. And that's the proper area for a guy of his talent at a position that is just a complete wasteland of talent. So if you want to draft Hanley, you can wait. And you might only get the 4 months out of him, but you want to pair him up with someone else like Alcides Escobar, even Stephen Drew. I know a lot of people are going to scoff at that, but for 2 months, maybe he gets off to a hot start. Or even someone like Juan Segura from Milwaukee. These are good guys to pair him up with to have in the meantime until Hanley comes back, because it's the thumb. And when you're dealing with thumbs, when you're dealing with wrists, you don't know how the swing is going to come back. Is the power going to be there? Is the average going to be there? It might take a while. So I would be hesitant to draft Hanley and then have no one good around him. So you want to pair him up with another capable shortstop.
I know he qualified at both shortstop and third base. It was kind of a double whammy, but I had him ranked second behind Tulowitzki. So now how far is he going to drop as a shortstop? Because you're not going to draft him as a third baseman, right?
No, you're not. You do not want to play Hanley at third base. There's better third basemen out there. You want to maximize position value, and that's Hanley at short. He's a borderline top 10 guy, basically. Still. I'm not going to say he's 7th. I'm just going to say he's probably 9, 10, 11, 12, around that range, depending on how risk-adverse you are.
All right. Okay. Now, next guy up, sticking along with the hands, we've got Mark Teixeira, who has that wrist injury, not to the tendon, but to the sheath, remember.
That's
I still don't know if I have a sheath. I don't even know what that is. So they're not going to make a determination until the middle of May on whether he should have surgery or not. So this is kind of in flux. We don't know if he's out for the year or if he's out till the All-Star break. How do you play him?
Put it this way, the only way I'm taking Mark Teixeira in any draft, if he's thrown back and I can get him for $1 in a keeper league. That's it. I talked about the wrist injury, and this is basically the same injury Jose Bautista had last year. And we saw what happened there. He came back for one game, then he was out for the rest of the year. I have a feeling that Tex is going to be out a whole lot longer than planned. If he's back by the All-Star break, I'll be stunned. If he comes back at all, I'm going to be kind of shocked. So I wouldn't even waste the DL spot. I know a lot of people like to draft injured players and then stash them on the DL and then have them for later in the season. We saw people do it with Victor Martinez last year. How'd that work out? Didn't. Yeah. So I feel the same way about Teixeira. He's not even worth a late round flyer at this point.
I tend to agree. And, bones are one thing, bones heal, you get back. Once you start getting into tendons and sheaths and things like that. So bones, Curtis Granderson, forearm. So he's somebody who's out. What are we doing with him? How far does he drop?
I like Granderson actually a lot now. I didn't like him so much. I felt he was being overdrafted when the first average draft positions came out. He was around 40, 45, that area. Borderline top 10 outfielder because of what he does. He has a fantastic skill set, but his average really hurts you, and those aren't really the types of guys I like. But now he's just slipped all the way down boards. He's going around 120 in drafts. Wow. Yeah, that's way too low. He's going behind Mark Trumbo, Alex Rios, guys like that. And look, like I talked about with Hanley, with Granderson, you can get him there, you can stash him for the first 6 weeks of the season, and there's always outfielders out there to replace him with. You can stash someone, you stash Granderson, and then you pick up someone for Lorenzo Cain for 6 weeks and see how he does, but then you pair his 6-week stats with what Granderson does for the rest of the year, and you have probably a borderline top 10 outfielder. So I'm all for drafting Granderson, especially at this position. I wouldn't waste a high pick on him, but if you can get him in the 11th round, 12th round, which is where he's going right now, he's a great value pick.
His batting average, is Adam Dunn-like batting average doesn't scare
me? It's better than Adam Dunn, but it does scare me. But I feel like he's so good in 3 categories: runs, RBIs, and home runs, and he'll chip in steals along the way too, that for the value that you get him at, that's worth it. Like I said, I didn't want him pick 40 because the average made it not worth it. Where you get him now, in the 12th round, it's terrific.
How about a guy like Zack Greinke? Not a major injury reported, but he had soreness, shut him down for a couple of days. He's back. He's throwing. Give a lot of people a scare, though.
And this is the perfect time to buy Zack Greinke. So far, since the injury's been announced, he's dropped from 55 average draft position all the way down to 90. That's 4 rounds of difference, give or take, depending on the size of your league. And he has this elbow spur, but you know what? He's only going to miss 1 start, or at least that's what the Dodgers are saying. You know, it could end up being worse, and you could end up getting screwed out of it, but I choose not to look at it that way. They say he's going to miss 1 start. I'm going to believe him on it. So I like Zack Greinke. I thought he was a good value at 55. He's a tremendous value at number 90. I love him.
Is he really the 90?
Yeah, he's dropping all the way down to the 90th pick.
That's foolish to me. How about Chase Headley?
Chase Headley is someone, now we talked about Hanley with the thumb, and it's the same thing. It's not as severe as an injury to his thumb that Headley has in comparison to Hanley, but the way that I look at it is Headley was going in the top 40 players, which was way too high based on a lot of his fantasy value.
You think he was a one-year wonder?
I don't think he's a one-year wonder, but a lot of his fantasy value last year was derived by his RBI total. He ended up with 115. Now, chances are he's not going to come back. It was an outrageous year for RBIs for him, and especially in the lineup, which isn't conducive to generating a whole lot of runs. Right. So I think that was an aberration of a stat. So let's say he regresses back to 90 playing a full season, then he just wasn't worth the pick. Now, Chase Headley, almost like Zack Greinke, he's going around pick 96. And that's a great value for a guy. He slipped out of the top 10 at third base. He's now behind Sandoval. He's now behind Brett Laurie. He's behind Aramis Ramirez. So if you want to wait on him and get a filler, maybe a Pedro Alvarez in the 17th round, something like that, and you pair them together, like I said with Granderson, I think there could be a nice value there. But, I mean, 90 is probably around where I would have picked Headley anyway. I would personally like to see him fall a little bit lower for my taste, but I feel like a lot of people believe in Headley, and if you believed in Headley before the injury, I don't think there's any reason not to believe in him now. It's just now you get a better price, but you have to wait 2 to 4 weeks to see him on the field.